Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, and thank you so much for being here today with a new session of Bisagi's Process Professor. My name is Kevin Guerrero, and I am really happy and really excited to have it or to be with you today in this new edition and new session of Bisagi's Process Professor for the month of September. Today, we will be talking a really amazing and interesting topic that we have within our platform. That is the way on how actually you can reduce the time and the resources that actually you spend when you are working in your projects, performing testing with one tool that we have within our platform that is called Bizagi Auto testing. This is going to be a great way on how you can speed up the delivery of your projects. That probably you don't need to actually go and do every single test by yourself or manual, but you can usually use this tool for everything that you got and everything that you need in your project testing. So if this is the first time probably you are joining one of our Bisagi's Process Professor sessions, so let me explain you a little bit how the program will work, how every single session is structured, and what you can spend for every single session that we have in this point. So Bisagi's Process Professor, it's in a space that we create. This is the year number 3 now. We start this one in the middle of a global pandemic, right? And our objective when we were creating this program was to create a free space for our customers, for our partners, for our employees, and in general for everyone anyone that can be interested in learning a little bit more about our platform, about maybe some of the trends that we are seeing in the market, to maybe talk about what is happening with some specific capabilities of our platform, or talk about new releases. And that's why we came with this idea of Bisagi's Process Professor. So it means that this is a completely free space for everyone. We are conducting this year one session per month. That session is going to be the third Wednesday of the month. And we have one session in English and one session in Spanish. So it means you can join any of the ones or whatever session it fits better for you. The idea of the session of Bisagi's Process Professor is that I will try to always follow this structure. Some cases, or even depending on the topic, it can happen that I change a little bit more. Maybe I am not going to have a demo, or maybe I am going to have something different. But in general, in all the sessions, I try to manage and control our sessions in this way. So the first 20 to 30 minutes, I will be talking about one particular topic, one capability of our product, one new version that we have released in the market, right? I will talk about this in theoretical point of view. Then the next session of Bisagi's Process Professor is going to be a live demonstration. So the idea is that you see how something in our platform works. And that live demonstration can be around the Bizagi Modeler, the Bizagi Studio, Bizagi Apps, the Experience Matrix, whatever feature that we have within our platform. It's something that we can use, or that I can use to show you how it looks like. And then we're going to have some final minutes for anyone to do any question that you have. Something really important about this last part is that actually the question that we are going to have at the end doesn't have to be related with the topic that we're covering in every single session. It means if you want to ask a question about a connector, or about a widget, or about creating a process diagram, or running a simulation in Modeler, whatever you want to ask, you can do it at the end of that, or at the end of our sessions. I will try to do my best to give you the answer that you are looking for. And in that way, we can actually learn much more about our platform and in general about our products, right? So relax, enjoy the time that we have today. As I was telling you at the beginning, I will be talking about what it's going to be called the reduce the testing time with Bizagi Auto testing. The agenda that I have prepared for you today will follow the following topics, and I will try to cover everything in this part. And first of all, I will be talking about Bizagi as your partner for success, right? And I want to start this session talking about that because it's really important that you keep in your mind that the only way on how we are going to be successful is when you are successful. And as part of that journey is where we came out with so many features, many capabilities, many strategic directives that we define within our company to actually try to make that your success can be achieved as fast as you can in a really good way that can be constant and can grow with the time, right? Because that's the only way on how we will be successful, right? As part of that Partners for Success, I will be talking a little bit about something that is a methodology that we talk or that we use when we are in the middle of projects, right? That is a Bizagi Spark, right? And inside of that Visage Spark, something really important is those good practices, right? Or those guidelines that we got when we were talking about the designing steps in Visage. And that's going to be the point where I will be presenting officially what is going to be the Visage Auto testing, right? Because as a part of a rapid delivery value strategy, when we want to deliver better and more applications in time, the auto testing tool is something that is going to definitely help us to accelerate those testing, to improve the way on how we use our resources, and to actually get products with much better quality. That is one of our objectives, right? I will teach you, or I will talk about some steps that we need to follow when we want to use the Visage Auto testing, some basic steps that everyone must follow if you want to use that Visage Auto testing. And at the end, I will just do a quick demonstration on how that Visage Auto testing can be used in any of your projects. So this is what I will have for today. This is everything that I have prepared on this session. So let's start, right? Let's start talking about what it's this amazing capability that is a Visage Auto testing and how actually this fits into all these messages that we have prepared for you. And again, I want to start with one simple message, with one clear obsession that we got here in Visage and in this company, is that definitely, and one thing that we have completely sure that we believe it and that we work every single day to achieve this, is that your success is our mission, right? There is no single way on how we can be successful as a company, as a PaaS company, as a cloud company, if you are not successful in that journey, right? And that's why in this being successful or trying to make you as successful as possible, right? We have to find a lot of steps to actually take you to that success, right? So what we want as a platform, right, as a low-code process automation platform, is we don't want to just go and sell you one product and then leave you alone so you can try to figure out what you can do with the platform. No. Our obsession is that you can be successful, and the way on how we can make that success to be true, to become true, is to follow these kind of things, right? So we are completely sure that from this first moment that you start working with us, you are going to have a customer success director specific and dedicated for you, to understand your needs, to hear from you what's happening, what do you need, how we can help you, what are those places where we can improve our product, our services, our communication, right? We have completely clear that nowadays when we are working with these kind of platforms, when we want to create modern applications, where we want to customize and deliver a custom and personalized experience for our end users, we cannot wait for months or years to just get those delivers. So that's why in this journey, and when we want to be assured that you are successful, we are going to have that one of the first projects must be delivered really early. We need to, or we will be helping you to select which is that project that we have to select, which is the one that will give us maybe more visibility within the organization, more value, how we can actually reach much more people around the organization to actually get into the value of creating applications with a platform with Bizagi, right? We are going to be completely sure that on every single step that you do with us, you are learning and learning much more to actually become self-sufficient, right? If you want one day to just run and create your application by yourself, that's completely fine for you. It's going to be a really, really important point for us and milestone for us, because at the end, it's where we are going to prove you that you don't need to have Bizagi consultants or Bizagi people in the organization all the time. No, you can achieve it by yourself and doing and learning with all the resources and every single thing that we have for you as free resources, so you can be self-sufficient at any time that you want, right? And at the end, we're going to be always by your side, next to you, trying to define that value delivery roadmap. How we can identify those applications that are the ones that deliver more value within the organization, which are those processes that maybe are causing more problems, where you are having maybe more manual work where things or the data quality is not the best ones, and we can improve them in a much better way, right? And as part of all this, as part of this success, right, that we want to achieve with you, we deliver something for you that is called the Bizagi Spark, right? The Bizagi Spark is nothing different than the methodology that we use to deliver that success with you, right? And this is something that is not going to be just running by ourselves or just by yourself. This is something that we are going to do it together, because definitely we understand that we want to achieve, or what we want to be is to start and to deliver fast results with efficient, with great value in simple pods. And from a really, really simple point of view, that Bizagi Spark framework, right, basically has three main stages, right? The energize, the empower, and the expand. And the idea of these three main stages is that we can deliver value every single stage where we are. So if it is in the energize, this is something that we must deliver in 90 days, right? 3 months. 3 months where we have to go and select one of those applications that we want to create, select those processes that we want to automate, and work really quickly, really fast, being efficient with the time and the resources. And that's where we are going to start talking about the topic for today. We need to find ways on how we can deliver applications that meets our needs, but also applications that are really, really in good in quality, right? Once that we're able to deliver those first processes fully automated in the energize step, then we can move to the empower. Where in the empower, the idea is to take every single lesson that we learn in the energize, what we did correct, where we have improvement opportunities, how we can do something faster, how we can actually maybe modify things in a much better and a smart way, and replicate that, not for just one process, but maybe for multiple ones. So in that way, we're delivering, or we're continue delivering automated processes during this empower stage 2. And finally, we are going to get definitely the expand 1. That is where we are going to now be thinking on how we can make that all these guidelines, all these best practices that we have achieved and that we have learned in these 2 previous stages now are available, and now we can put it in a center of excellence, something that we can make available for everyone within the organization, and that we can grow as fast as we want. As part of this Bizagi Spark framework, right, we have something that it is, let's say, not only for Bizagi, it's something in general, the guidelines and best practices where we are actually even doing like some software development, right? And it is that in general, the designing step is like, if you want to follow best practices in software design, usually what you have to do is go and define a problem, go and define a solution, and then validate that solution. Those are, let's say, 3 high-level steps that we must follow when we're creating our applications, when we're automating our process. In every single of these steps, we have to do something more, right? So when we're defining the problem, we need to be completely sure that we understand and that we define that problem in detail, right? When we're designing that solution, we need to be completely sure that we're ideating that solution, creating prototypes, seeing exactly how this is going to look like, and then make a full definition of what we will be implemented. And finally, when we want to do the validation of the solution, we need to be completely sure that our prototypes or that the application that we're building is running as expected, and validate. And maybe you are thinking, okay, this sounds good. This sounds actually familiar, but how all of this can actually improve with something that is an auto-testing tool, right? How being a partner for success and how having this Spark methodology, where the auto-testing take place in all of this. So the idea is that everyone, if we want to be completely sure that in the Spark methodology, in the first stage, right, that is the energize, right, we are able to deliver those first group of processes fully automated in 90 days. We need to have tools that allow us to develop faster, but also to test that our applications are running as expected. The same even if we are in the empower, right? If we want to replicate those lessons, everything that we have learned, we need to be able to test our applications and our processes faster, right? And that is where the combination of that Spark methodology with these basic designing steps that we got in any, let's say, software development approach, gets into the place where is how this actually looks like when we're working with Bizagi, right? And it is when we are developing and creating our processes with Bizagi, we have one first place that is a place where we develop all our processes. That is our development environment. That is where Bizagi Studio actually appears. This is the place where we start doing process automation, where we have absolutely everything about that process that we want to automate. But as any framework or any software methodology that we want to follow, we need to test and validate that everything is running as expected. And that's where we got our testing environment, right? In the testing environment, now we're talking about a Bizagi automation service. This is the test environment, is the place on where at the end we're doing a simulation of that final production environment. And this is the environment that has as a main objective that we're able to test, to validate, and to be completely sure that everything that we have been automated meets the expectations and meets those requirements that were defined initially by the business, right? Once that we actually are sure that everything works as expected, that we actually had some user tests running as expected and everyone is okay with those, we can jump into our final one, that is that production environment, that is the real operation of the organization with real end users and where everything is running, right? But as we were seeing before, right, in that design steps that we got, and maybe that's a little detail that is important to highlight, we have that between every single of these big three steps, define the problem, design the solution, and validate the solution, we have constant loops. And those constant loops is because we need to be completely sure that every single time that we're working, we need to test, we need to get feedback, and we need to go back if necessary to do any amendment when it is required. So that's why if we actually talk about that, those design steps, keeping in mind the different environments that we have in Bizagi and keeping in mind these constant loops of improvement, this is what we got. So we got one Bizagi Studio as our development environment where we are creating and automating our processes, one testing environment where we have a main objective to test and validate that everything works as expected. This is the simulation environment of the production. And something really important is that we can take every single element being automated in a studio to our testing through what it is called the deployment. And that improvement management is something that we have to have in place. So it is the continuous improvement cycle that we must have in place and that we might use it as much as we can between testing environments and development environment. If we're able to see that something is not working as expected, go back, do the feedback, improve it, go back again to testing environment, and do this loop as many times as you want. But probably a lot of you have heard and have even live that when we're creating this type of applications, when we're doing process automation, even when we were doing software development in the old-fashioned way, let's say it, right? Testing was something that was always, let's say, the one that has less priority, right? So usually you define your schedule, you define your project management, you define the dates that you need to deliver everything, and you try to meet those dates. But unfortunately, sometimes errors, unexpected happens, right? Or situations that you didn't have it considered happens. Or even if you did a proper analysis and business requirement at the beginning, end users will come out with, I forgot to tell you that this process also has this, and this. So the processes start to grow and grow and grow. And when we got into the testing part, sometimes that's the part that we gave less time, less resources, and even less attention, right? However, let's say this is not always a best practice. And we understand that this can take a lot of time, but also we highlight and we promote that this is one of the most important things that you have to do to be sure that the process that you have been automated meets every single business requirement. So that's why in Bizagi, we have this auto testing tool. So we want to be partners for success. we are completely sure that the only way on how we are going to be successful is that if you are successful. We have a full method framework in place, right? Our Bizagi Spark framework is in place to help you to actually deliver results in a really quick way. And we know that when we're doing this a continuous improvement cycles between testing and between development environments, this is something that it can take time. But we are also completely sure that we don't want you that you skip the testing part or that you do it like maybe not paying as much attention as required. So that's why we have this tool that is called the auto testing. So the Bizagi auto testing is a feature that it is being designed in the platform to accelerate the validation process when you are creating this process automated, right? And minimize the time and resources that are required to ensure that every single part within your process is performing as expected. So if I have a, let's say, vacation leave request process, or I have, let's say, a loan origination, and I have a process that has multiple paths, I want to be completely sure that that process is doing what it is expected. I want to be completely sure that the data follows the business rules that I have defined. I want to be sure that the calculations are working as expected, that every single logic that I have put in place within that process actually works and follow every single detail that I have defined. So that's where Bizagi Auto Testing will take place for you, right? And why this is so important, right? What we can achieve if at the end we are going to be able to do and to test faster. So the first one definitely is that you are going to have a tool that it will help you to accelerate the process of the testing, right? It means you don't have to do everything manually. And I don't know if it happens to you sometimes, right? When you are even working with Bizagi, it happens to me sometimes that I'm working in the process automation and at sometimes I want to test something, right? But what I want to test probably is 5 tasks from the beginning of the process. And I have to start from scratch and start creating every single case and complete every single task of the process, complete the data, move every single case from one activity to the next one, and then get into the place where I want to test. And sometimes that actually takes a lot of time, right? So me as a developer, probably I don't want to actually do that all the time in a manual way. When I am starting doing the process automation, it makes sense that I do it manually, right? From the beginning, like, okay, let's be sure that in this loan origination, I am recording the data of the customer, and I have the city, and I have the country, and I have the products, and I have the credit history. That makes sense, right? But if later I have already validated that part is working correctly, and I want to check if something much, much more far in the process, I don't want to start doing all of that all the time. So I want to accelerate that process testing. The second great benefit, right, with Bizagi Auto Testing is the user satisfaction. And this is something that is really important because sometimes take into account that these projects, when you are doing process automation, creation of applications, you are replacing maybe old technologies by a new one, you are going to have always people that will be against that program, against that change. That is why it is also highly recommended that in every single project that you are working, you have change management in place, that you try to highlight and to teach your internal users why these changes are so important and everyone has to be in line. But something important is that if you are doing that change management, you are teaching your users that actually this makes sense. You actually try to understand, right? And to let them understand that this is good for them. And when they go and run that application, the application does not work. The process is not keeping the data as expected. Business rules are not in place. Those users will be completely unsatisfied. And those are going to be the users that will come back and say to you, you know, I told you, it is better if we keep in the old system. So this sometimes is with those type of users like a one-time shot. You need to try to deliver the best process automated with the best quality as you can in the first shot. So you can demonstrate easily that actually making or applying that change brings benefit for the organization, benefit for those users, And then you don't have to go back multiple times to try to let them know that this is good for them. So user satisfaction is something really important that we can achieve if we're able to execute our tests in a proper way, in a fast way, right? The third one is definitely cost and time effectiveness, right? So as I was telling you, in a lot of software development companies, testing sometimes is that little part of this development cycle that gets the less time, the less resources, and is where everyone is actually rushing. So we need to deliver the new version. We need to deliver the product. We need to deliver the new process. We need to deliver whatever. And sometimes, right, is where you spend less time and less resources. But if you have a tool that allows you to accelerate this, if you have a tool that does not need that much time, that much resources, and you combine that tool with the use of your human resources, you can be much more effectiveness and get better results with that part, right? And finally, for sure, one of the most important ones is that you can improve the quality of your product. I cannot deny that at the end, even if you do, 3 months of testing, it is possible that when you take your processes into production environments, you find some issues or some small bugs, because it's possible that there are some specific situations that can only occur when you are in production environments. That's something that can happen. It happens to every single software company in the world, right? But what you must try to do the best of you is that every single time that you are generating those products, that you are doing that process automation, the process that you put in production can have the best quality that you can. And that's something that you can achieve only if you test deeply every single part of the processes that you are working, right? So these are big benefits that actually we can achieve when we are working with this auto testing tool that we got. So now, how does the auto testing works, right? If I want to use this auto testing works in the Bizagi platform, how it works. So we need to follow some steps if we want to handle and we want to use this tool. So the first one is that this is a tool that you can download. It's not part of, or it does not come within the platform. You can download it directly from our help website. And once that you download that one from our Bizagi help website, you can add it or install it in your laptop, right? The second step of using that auto testing tool is that the auto testing tools will let you connect to your project. So it means you have the auto testing tool and you need to do some configurations in order to connect the auto testing tool with the project that you want to run, right? Something really important about the Bizagi auto testing tool is that this is a tool that can be used in the development environment and also in the testing environment. It's not available for production, of course, right? The main objective of this one is that you can test. Why is available in development? Because there is a lot of cases where developers are actually doing process automation and they want to go and check if the information is being captured correctly. Or if you modify something in one of the forms and you want to see if that change was applied correctly, you can do it right away, right? So you can set up connections for testing or development environment to just run your tests. Once that you have that configuration to your project, the third step that you can apply is that you can record your scenarios. So what is this? So basically, the auto testing tool will run your web application. Which one? The Bizagi work portal where we run our processes, right? And you can start recording every single human interaction that you do in one of the forms, right? So if you are in this vacation leave request process, and in the first form, the employee must register the day where he is going out, the day when he is going to return, if he has available days or not. All that information can be recorded, and all of that is going to be recorded in something that is called an scenario. That scenario will be saved in a file, right? That scenario will contain the information that you use to test every single part of the process. And then the last step is that you can upload all the scenarios that you want. If you want, you can use run one scenario at a time. Or if you can, you can run multiple scenarios at the same time, right? And what you have to do once that you have uploaded those scenarios is to define the running properties. And then when I'm talking about defining the running properties, is that you need to define how many times do you want to run those scenarios. And you can do that configuration either by time. So let's run this by, I don't know, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever I want. Or let's run this many times, a count of numbers. Let's run this 20 times, right? It takes the information that you got. It takes everything that was recorded in the step number 3, and it is going to replicate the information in your project. It means that at the end of the execution of these 4 steps, you are going to have as many cases as you'd select in the step number 4 that you want to create, right? With the data that you are testing. And the great advantage is that you can create as many scenarios as you want, right? So at the end, you can create one scenario, for example, where the vacation leave request was approved. Another one where it was rejected. Another one where amendments were requested, right? And then run the 3 of them and see the final result, right? It means that you are able to test that the execution of the process is working as expected, that every single business rule that we're putting there works as expected, that those decision points where we evaluate data, right, like the database gateway or the inclusive gateways, are evaluating the conditions correctly, and get that final result in your project to see exactly how this is going to be working for you, right? So these are the basic steps that we have to follow when we are working with the auto testing tool and when we want to use it. So now let's go and let's see really quickly how actually this looks like and what is going to be the information of this part. So let me just run the demonstration for this specific part. Give me 1 second. Let me just change here really quickly from the different screens that I have. And I'm going to show you in this moment how the information that we got into this particular point, it is going to work for us, right? So as I was telling you, let me just go really quickly to the other screen. So the first thing that I was telling you is like, look, if you want to use this tool, you can just go directly and basically download, right? The first thing that we need to do in this particular point is to actually download the auto testing tool. If you want to download this part, what you have to do is to just go directly to the Bizagi help website. And once that you are in the Bizagi help website, that's the place where we will be able to just test or to download the elements that you got. So let me just share this screen with you. There you go. And here, basically, we're going to have a full chapter that it is about our auto testing one, right? So here in the documentation, it lets you, or it explains you exactly how you can use it. If you want to download the tool, it is going to be available here. So this is going to be the auto testing for Bizagi, right? And as I was telling you, once that you got that a tool installed in your project, installed in your environment, this is going to be the place where you can just run that application. So when you run that application, you just need to do some basic configurations and some basic installations here, and then you run the automatic testing tool, and you just run it directly in your computer. I was telling you that before that, or in the opportunity for you to see how this works, the first thing that you have to do is to do some basic configuration. So it means the auto testing tools need to connect to your project. So for that, we can go to the options tab that we got here, and we're going to find here this, call it connection, right? This connection parameter or this connection information basically is like, you need to set up here and you need to put at this particular point the URL from the Bizagi work portal that you want to run. It means you need to put the details of that project that you want to run and that you want to use to test it, right? Once that you got all that information, we can start running or recording our scenarios. So for this simple example, I just want to show you really quickly which process I want to use, or which is the information that I got here, right? So basically, this is a simple purchase request process. In this purchase request process, what I am going to have are some basic steps or some basic information in terms of how that process works, right? So this is a process that we have already fully automated into this particular point. We are going to be able to just have and see how this process works. So I have a first a step that is just create the purchase request, then authorize the whole request. And then I got into one validation point that allowed me to know if change are required, if it was not authorized, or if it is authorized and we actually can go back to get this point, or even if I need an additional approval. So I have multiple things that can happen in this process and I want to test it, right? So sometimes that can happen here is that if I want to just go and run and see how this process looks like, so at the end, what I will be getting into this particular point is like, okay, I can just go here, enter, let's say that we are going to just enter with this admin user to see all the information. And when we want to run, or when we want to actually see that process execution, I can go to the new case and start a new purchase request, right? The traditional way of testing here stops. It will be to come here to the Bizagi Work portal, select that new option of the create new case, and then start testing and completing all the information here, right? So which is going to be the cost center, which is the purchase justification, and complete all the data, right? If I want to use the auto testing tool, what we can do is like, yeah, you know what? I don't want anymore to just start working this from scratch. So let's start setting up all of this from an auto testing environment. So now I have my configuration to the environment here. That's done. And the next step is I need to record a scenario. One scenario that captures every single thing that I want to test. So I can use this record a scenario tab, right? What this is going to do is going to automatically generate or automatically open a new tab where my development environment or my testing environment work portal is being executed. It asks me with which user I want to do all the tests. Let's suppose that in this one, I want to use the corresponding admin user to just get it this one. And then what I am going to just get it here is that we can select the process that we want to use here. So we go, let's test the purchase request process here. In this moment, if you see on the top left corner, I have this stop button. That is the one that will allow me to decide how long I want to capture the information and when I want to stop. So here, let's suppose I am going to put just a project. This is going to be just a auto testing example, right? Let's suppose that we are going to add some couple products that we want to see. So all of this is something that actually I can test or I can validate. So let's suppose I want to test one office supply here, and this one, I just want to have, let's say, I don't know, paper clips, right? And I want to have 100 paper clips here, and it gives me what is going to be the total of the request that I'm having here, right? Is this something that requires approvals? Let's say that I want to test in this scenario that it is a yes. Yes, I want to have this one. Then I can just say, which is going to be the corresponding delivery address, when I need this information here, the country where this is going to be located. Suppose we're going to have this information into this point. Let's select here, New York, and here, New York, and I have all the data here now. I can click on next. And keep in mind that in this moment here, what I am doing is recording all the information. Everything that is being set up here, it is now being recorded. And here it is a place where I want to test, or I want to say what I want to test. So do I want to just test the approved one? So if I click the approve, it will take me to the last step of the process. It will finish, and I can now stop the recording of this scenario with everything that I want. And this is going to be one scenario that I am going to be able to use it, right? In case that I want just to test that part, that is the one that allows me to go directly and validate the corresponding execution of an approved path, right? Every single test that I execute and every single element that I got is going to have as an extension the test extension, right? And it is going to come with all the information and all the data that has been captured here. It is going to tell me here, which is the name of that scenario here. And if I go to the folder that I can select where that is going to be, I am going to be able to locate and identify that file right away. So that's the third step. That is where I'm now recording the scenarios, right? I can record as many as I want, with the data that I want to test and to check and validate exactly whatever I want. Now, what if I want to actually run it? What if I want to actually go and validate that this is working and to replicate this multiple times? So the first option or the first step is that I need to load that scenario. So I have to go to the load scenario, find the place where I have all that data, select the scenario that I want to have. That's it. It will tell me which is the values that I have, what is the data that I'm going to be testing. And something really important that I told you is that to start running those scenarios and to actually be sure that you are going to test that part, you can, within the options once in the execution, select how many repetitions of this you want to do. And as I was telling you in the presentation, you can select two options. It can be based on how many times do you want to repeat this one. So let's say I want to execute this 10 times. So at the end, you are going to end with 10 cases that follow the path of the approval. Now, what will happen if you want to test the rejection? So you record another scenario that takes you to the rejection and you load those two scenarios at the same time. And if you want to have another one for the amendments, record another scenario where you can select that amendments are required and then run the three scenarios at the same time, right? And you will be testing the three paths of the execution of the process. But if you don't want the repeat, you can also execute it by time. So let's run this one based on time. One important thing here is that this is going to take the information of how long it will take you to complete every step of the process. So in this one, let's suppose I want just to execute this 5 times, right? I can execute multiple threads at the same time. So this is going to avoid, for example, that you have queues or waiting times, right? And let's suppose that if at some point we got errors, I want that he continues, right? Because when we run those scenarios and an error is detected, then what it is going to happen is that I can continue and I am going to see those errors here in the console where I see all the information. So I have everything here. I have the scenario loaded. I have set up the conditions that I want. And now I am ready to just go and run the scenarios. Where I click on run, what it is going to happen, it is going to start loading every single element that I got there, loading the data that I have added here, and start to replicate all the information and all the steps that I have done there, right? It is going to take all the information that is necessary. If any error is being executed, we are going to see the errors or the replica here. If not, we will be able just to see which is the ID case that was created into the information that you want, and then you can just run as many times as you want. What it is going to happen at the end is that when you finish the recording of your scenarios and you want to go and see if everything works as expected, you can go into your inbox, right? And you will be able to see all the cases that were automatically created by the auto testing tool. Take a look. All of these are now automatically added here. All of these are actually now, if I review the information that we got into this particular point, take a look that actually we are even now in a sub-process. Why we're in a sub-process? Because all the cases that were created here were actually taking that path that was selected to authorize. So it means I was selecting the authorized part, and now I have all these cases ready to test. So it means that if at some point you say, hey, at this particular point, I want to just go and change or modify something into the request quotation, I can enter here and take a look that all the data that I have added was there, right? So is the auto testing example, you have all the data that I have added. I said in my part that I want to have just paper clips, and I can start added here. So it means that it replicates as many times as I decide. Take a look that I put it there, that what I wanted is to just create 5 times. So I have 5 cases created here, and all those 5 cases actually has the information and replicates the data that I want. So it means that it is also a really powerful tool when we want to test and when we want to verify that all my cases and all the data that I am having here is following the paths that I want to have it there, right? So this is the way on how this Bizagi Auto testing tool, it is going to work for all of us, right? So before that we move to the Q&A session, right? What I want to just tell you it's an open invitation for all of you who register for next Visagi's Process Professor. Remember, we're having Visagi's Process Professor every Wednesday, every third Wednesday of the month. It means the next session that we're going to have, that is going to be the one on the month of October, right? It is going to be on October 18. That is going to be our next session. Remember that we have one session in English, one session in Spanish. Also remember that we have added a couple months ago one new option when you are registered for the sessions, and that it is basically the one that allows you to subscribe to Visagi's Process Professor. It means that if you don't want, or if for any reason maybe you forgot to register every single month, it doesn't matter. You can go to the Bizagi Process Professor page. You will have one checkbox that it says that you want to be subscribed, and we will automatically add you into the session. You will get an email with the details, with the link to connect, everything ready for you. So in that way, you will not miss any Visagi's Process Professor, right? So before that we got, please register next week. I think maybe next week, we're going to be publishing what it will be the next topic that we will be covering in October. So it's really important for you. And also remember that every single session of Visagi's Process Professor is recorded, and it is available in the Visagi's Process Professor website. So when you go to Visagi Process Professor, if you scroll down, you are going to find the video library that it has absolutely all the videos that we have recorded in all this time. So you can go and take a look at any time that you want.